Hello, everyone. I hope all of you are having a great morning. Today, we want to continue doing the exercises that are part of the lesson World Population Growth. And we reached exercise, let me just take a look at the book. Um, Exercise, let me say D, the multiple choice one. However, this exercise is not necessary, so we're going to skip it, okay? Now, the next exercise, which is important, guys, is E, the comprehension questions, exercise. You have to, be able to read questions and answer them based on the text, all right? So please, guys, make sure that your books are open on page 63. I'm sorry for the scribbles. This is an old book. I, taught it last semester, and these are my scribbles on it. Forgive me. Anyway, so we're gonna read the questions and then answer them. Of course, if you don't remember the answer, you can go back to the reading passage. All right. So if we take a look at question 1, what does it say? How has the population of the world changed in the past 2,000 years? Of course, we know what the change is, right? It changed in terms of the number of people living, on this earth, right? They increased, and not just increased, guys, slowly, remember? They increased the number of residents or the population, increased rapidly. So that's the answer to the question. So you can say that the population of the earth, caused a change to the earth, and this increase was rapid, okay? And you can give examples if you want. Like in 15 years time, we would have like double the number of people, and give examples from the text itself, all right? Just to support your answer, okay? So let's move on to question 2. What does it say? Why is the standard of living different in different countries? The standard of living in America is not like that, in Jordan, right? Why is that though? Okay, it's different, because it depends on the use of fossil fuels and let me say, or non-renewable sources of energy. We also refer to them as these kinds of energy resources as commercial energy. And if these resources of energy are available, people would use them more, and raise their standard of living, all right? So that's the reason. It has to do with whether that country is a developing country or not. So if it's a developed country like the United States of America, economically it's stronger, or it's strong, and it would be using, let me say, lots of the non-renewable resources, and that is how people that's how people like raise their standard of living, by depending on these resources, in order to produce energy, and in order to live a better lifestyle. All right. So basically, that's it. Okay. Question number 3. Can the amount of farmland on Earth be increased? Remember, guys, we said something about farmland, decreasing. All right. Because we're not, using farmland in let me say, a proper way. We're, why? Because we're building our houses, our buildings, our bridges, our streets. Imagine on farmland. We should be building these, things, on land which is not considered farmland, maybe desert land, not fertile land, all right? But instead, we don't care that much about the kind of land, that we're building our houses on, and it's like it doesn't matter, So how can we increase it? Of course, we can increase it simply by not building, buildings, and not constructing buildings, let me say, on farmland. Like checking the land, making sure that it's not proper for in order to be farmed, and then you could like build a house or a building, or a street on it. Okay, that's one way. And another way is that, guys, not to over cultivate the land. Remember, we spoke about, over cultivating. That is, when you grow up, a kind of, plant, or, more than one year, like more than one time a year, and then you don't fertilize the land, you don't, look for, the needs of the land, or look after the land in a proper way. That's called, over cultivation, let me say. So we should cultivate the land in proper ways, find methods to, look after the land, and increase its fertility and value. Okay, so that's the answer. All right, so these are methods in order to, increase the amount of farmland. It's not going to be, we're not going to produce a lot of farmland, let me say, but it's better than nothing, or it's better than going worse, right? Okay, let's take a look at sentence number 4, or question number 4, I'm sorry. Why can't we use most of the Earth's water? Okay. Yeah, water covers the majority of our planet Earth. But why can't we use that water? We said that, the majority of our fresh water is in the North and South Pole. Imagine, guys. And that's like less than 3%. Can you imagine? However, the majority of the water is salted. It's salty and it's poisonous. And like, if anybody drinks it, they would die. So that's why we can't use it. And the funny thing is that, in order to turn this salt water into, let me say, fresh water, there's a process called desalinization. And it is said that this process is like very expensive, to conduct. And so it's not convenient. And that makes, fresh water something valuable and hard to, have always available. Okay. So this is why we can't use most of the Earth's water, because simply it's salty. That's why. It's not fresh. Okay. We need fresh water to drink. We need fresh water to, water our plants and crops. And that's just that, some people, they're really, spoiled, and even, like, they could tell that, that this fresh water is better than that fresh water. My kids are like that. They would like say, no, we want bottled water. If it's not bottled, we wouldn't, we're not gonna drink water from a well. Okay, because, our mothers and fathers and grandfathers, they prefer, water from a well or from a stream, right? Yeah. All right, let's move on to question 5. Here we are. Let me just enlarge the screen so that you could see the questions better. All right, go down here, or up here. So there we have, now we have question 5. Here it is. So question 5, guys, is in the book. See, I have the book also with me. It's on page 64. Guys, like I said, make sure you have the book. All right. Having the book is very important. I know I kind of, help you out and post the pages for you in these classes, but, having the book in hard copy is a necessity. You can't have your phone 24/7 on, or your laptop on 24/7. Sometimes it's also good to, to stop looking at, the light and the screens, and, paper is also good. All right, so basically at night, I would be reading from the book, and I would never be looking at these screens. Yeah, I also want to protect my eyesight. So anyway, back to question 5. What is a non-renewable energy resource? A non-renewable energy resource. Non-renewable. Think about this word, okay? And an energy resource. So when we talk about energy resources, we mean like wind, water, earth itself, let me say, or land, okay? We also talk about electricity. We could talk about fossil fuels, different kinds, or, of fossil fuels like oil, gas, kerosene, these wood, etc., coal. Yeah. So, but among these that I've just mentioned, what is non-renewable? That is, it cannot be renewable. All right. So the non-renewable are ones that, might, finish up, not last. Look at my notes here, come to an end one day, and it's better for us not to depend on them. All right. So, yes, if you go back to the book, coal is one of them, oil is one of them, gas is one of them, right, guys? Wood is one of them. Is wood one of them? No, not really. We might find wood still later on because I hope we still grow trees, all right? But yeah, coal, gas, oil, these are, like gasoline, these are non-renewable. Okay. Let's move on to question 6. Why is the need, remember guys, for energy increasing? So we want more and more energy everywhere in the world. Why? Of course, guys, the answer is clear. We talked about this before. It's because we as people know that in order to raise your standard of living, you need more energy because, the electrical machines, guys, that are supporting this, high standard of living, and other machines, not only electrical, they depend on fossil fuels, right? The commercial energy that we have talked about, which is what? Non-renewable. All right. That's why. Okay. So imagine, guys, I want to turn on my heater. I need probably, gas or a kerosene, to turn it on, right? Yeah. I want to, be warm. I want to, cool myself. I need these, fossil fuels in order to do that, right? I want to drive a beautiful car, a modern one. It needs a lot of gas, right? And so on. So I want to be happy, live this great lifestyle. I need to increase what, guys, the non-renewable resources that I'm using. And so I will have, like a better standard of life, right? Yeah. And we assume that that's what's going to cause us to be happy. All right, let's move on to 7. Question 7. Is it better to have a smaller population with a higher standard of living? Of course, guys, you have a smaller population, you can give them a chance to live a better life, or have a life which is of higher standards, right? Or to have a large population, like a lot of, people in a certain place, in a certain country, with a lower standard of living. Well, I guess most of us would say this: a smaller population with a higher standard of living. Okay, we don't have to do anything but choose, guys, here. Okay, if you want to say why, you can tell me why. Okay, we live one life, maybe, why not enjoy it? Yeah, something of that kind. It's up to you. All right, but they don't ask for like why you chose this and the first or the second answer. All right, but for me, I'd go for the former. All right. 8, how many people can the earth support? Of course, the text itself said that it depends on the people themselves, guys. All right. So if the people themselves are the people who are hardworking, people who are looking or look for, technology besides the ones that we already have in order to, support Earth and their lives, they're looking for like resources which are, renewable, and make use of the renewable resources of energy in order to, better their standard of living and other people's, standard of living, then they are more than welcome. Okay, the earth can hold as many as possible. All right, but if these people are people who are, depend on others, they're lazy, they're people who slack, I don't think we need these people, and earth will, probably be destroyed or get destroyed at the hands of these people. And guess what? When earth is destroyed, we people living on it will also be destroyed because, it's what contains us. All right. So basically, people who are not hardworking, who are not people who want to, you know, let me say, find alternative resources in order to, you know, support Earth and support themselves, you know, in terms of their living, you know what? They're gonna have all this reflected back onto them. All right. Let's go on. Let's move on to, I'm sorry, question number 9. Which European country is among the world's largest? Well, this is not even mentioned in the text, you know. So basically what I did was I went to Google and I asked the question, and Siri gave me the answer, honestly speaking. She said that, you know, that it's Russia. So in terms of the largest in terms of the size, you know, it's Russia. And when I also asked Siri this question, you know, question 10, which urban area of the world has the largest population, I was also given the same answer, which was Russia. Okay. Don't worry about these 2 questions. I'm not going to ask you about them in the exam, you know, just, you know, for your knowledge, you know, it's fine. You get to know them. Um, do you think your country has too many people? Give a reason for your answer. For me, I would say yes, it does have more people than it should. Because again, if I was going to make use of the information, I would go back to this question over here. It's because the majority of the people, or a lot of people, you know, are not really working as they should. They're not supporting their country as they should. This is what I would say. All right. But, you know, I would like, you know, say this privately. All right. So I just wish that, you know, people in our country cared more about the environment, cared more about, you know, the land that they live on and the country they belong to, and that they would be people that, you know, would be thinking about how to, you know, create technology or a technologies where, you know, renewable resources of energy are used in order to better the standard of their lives and, you know, others. All right. And not just, you know, depend on others to have that available for them. All right. So I hope you guys have a similar answer to mine, or you could just add yours as well. But, you know, I'm trying to help you here in the way that you could answer these questions. It doesn't mean that you have to give the same answer that I did, but, you know, the answer has to be, you know, logical. So, you know, you have to support it. It has to be okay and acceptable. You just cannot answer, you know, give any answer, you know. All right, let's move on to F, main idea. What is the main idea of this reading passage? Write it in a sentence. For me, you know, I consider that the main idea is that we people, you know, need to look after our world, after Earth, which is our world, okay? So that it, you know, can look after us. So it's basically we are really supporting ourselves, you know, if we support our Earth, you know? Yeah. So I hope you like my answer. I hope you have, you know, a better answer to that question. Okay, so we want to move on to section G, 2-word verbs. You know, guys, we call 2-word verbs phrasal verbs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here, and each one is, you know, written down, and next to it is like its meaning. Cut down. What does cut down mean? Of course, you know, sometimes these phrasal verbs have more than one meaning, but we want to use them, you know, to mean what is like on the right. Okay, so cut down means to cut and remove here. And the example is as in cut down a tree. Okay. Figure out, like find the answer, like to a mathematical problem, to a question, right? Yeah. Go up means to go up, to increase, all right? That is to become more, to go higher, right? Yeah. Hang up here, of course, it means end a telephone conversation, because, you know, hang up sometimes has another meaning as well, you know, but no, we want it to mean here end a telephone conversation. So, you know, I spoke to my friend and then, you know, I hung up, for example. Make up. What does it mean here? Think of a new story, like to invent, guys. All right, this is what it means. To make up is to like to invent. All right, let's take a look at the sentences. Now we need to make use of these phrasal verbs in order to complete the sentences, you know, based on meaning here. So Mr. Sometimes we might want to make changes, to the phrasal verbs themselves, depends on whether the sentence is present simple or past. And that's all that you need to do. Just make sure that if you need the phrasal verb to be in the present, make it present, and pay attention to the subjects, all right, of the sentences. So Mr. Hasigawa, that's a weird name. What does he do? He makes up funny stories to tell his children. So guys, we added an S over here because this sentence is present simple. This is the habit of this man, He always, without even saying always, we got the idea that this always happens. That this man makes up funny stories to tell his children. So this is the present simple of make up, because the subject here is Mr. Hasigawa, and it's like he. It replaces he, all right? And the verb takes an S when we have he, she, or even it, right? All right, in the present simple. So the big old tree in our front yard is dead. Oh my gosh. What do we need to do now? We have to what? Have to should be followed by what, guys? Have to drink, have to cut, have to what? Base form verb, all right? An infinitive verb. So we have to cut it down. It's the tree itself, okay? Since it's dead, why leave it, standing there, So cut down, look, no S, no nothing. Why? Because after have to, what do we have? Verbs, whatever the verb is, but here based on the meaning, I chose cut down, all right? We have an infinitive verb here. Okay, same thing with can't, guys. All modal verbs, whether they are in the negative or in the positive or the affirmative, I mean, can, can't, must, mustn't, right, may not, shall, shouldn't, for example, shall not, okay, should, shouldn't, shall not, they are all followed by what? Infinitive verbs, that is base form verbs without any additions, all right? So you cannot say I can't and you're done with your verb. No, you have to add another verb, but that verb has to do with what you mean in the sentence. And that verb is supposed to be, in terms of the way it looks, a base form verb. So I can't figure out. Why did I choose figure out? Figure out what? The answer to this math problem, right? So I hope, all our Tojihi students figure out the answers to the math problems that they will have in their exams. Okay. Let's move on to the next question or the next sentence. When Tom finished talking to his friend on the phone, what happened? He said goodbye. Not just goodbye. And, that's called what? End call. And hung up. This is what he did, okay? This is what he did. Look, guys, he said past. And when we have and, what is before, and in terms of the tense is past, all right? And what is after should be the same, guys, all right? So past and hang up, the past of it is hung up, all right? Okay, sentence 5, when there is a shortage of something, like little of something, not a lot, okay? The price, we talked about this before, right? The price usually what? Goes up. Look, usually, present simple. So this is an adverb of frequency, which is like, a kind of note or key, it's like a tool that helps you know that this sentence should be present simple. So the price usually goes up, right? When there is shortage of something or a shortage of something, I'm sorry, the price usually goes up. Usually, not all the time, but most of the time, right? So present simple, all right? Yeah, this happens, guys. There is little bread, so prices are going to be very high. Little, not so much probably chicken, prices of chicken go up. Not so much fuel in our country. Yeah, it's going to be very expensive and so on. Okay. Yeah. So we're done with this page. We need to move on to the next page, which is 65. Let's flip the page. All right, let me enlarge it for you. And let's do this exercise over here. Okay, so what are irregular verbs? Irregular verbs. Okay, irregular verbs are verbs that, like when you decide to write them in the past, like freeze, they don't have ed, and in addition to that, in the past participle, that is verb 3, we call it, guys, right? You as students always say verb 3, huh? It is not also ed. It does not end with ed. An example on a regular verb, guys, is what? Close. I closed the door yesterday, a few hours ago. CLOSED, right? So, and guess what? In the past participle, I will also add ed to it, all right? To the verb close. So when we have a verb that is, that in which we add ed to it in the past, and we add ed to it in the past participle, we call it a regular verb, all right? Okay? But when we have a verb that does not follow that rule, it's a rule, okay? Then it's an irregular verb, even if the present simple of the verb and the past participle are the same, like cut, cut, cut. It doesn't matter, guys. This is irregular. Irregular, all right? That means it does not follow the pattern, the rule that I talked about, which is ed in the past and ed in the past participle. Okay, I hope you understood that, all right? I bet you already knew that, but sometimes, I'm just reminding you of things, because you might have forgotten, okay? Because many of you, your major is not English, and so probably, the lack of practice, sometimes, could cause you to forget about these rules. So anyway, we have how many? 4 verbs, and all these 4 verbs are what? Irregular. Why? Look at them. In the past, they have a special kind of spelling or a special kind of ending, or they don't have ed, let me say. And in the past participle, the same, they don't have ed. All right. So look at the first verb. Freeze is the simple form of it. Okay. The present simple, you can say if you want. Then we have in the past freeze, its past is froze. Its past participle is frozen. Okay. Like if these verbs were preceded by have or had or has, you need to put them in the past participle. Another thing that we're going to discuss in a few minutes is that, the past participle itself could be used, it could be used to function as an adjective. So sometimes I say frozen goods. We have some frozen veggies in the freezer, all right? Frozen, veggies or frozen goods, okay? So goods or veggies are, nouns, and before them or preceded by that was the word frozen. It functioned here as an adjective. And we did not need any a had or a has or a have before frozen here, okay? So the idea is just to tell you guys that past participles, how could we find them in sentences? Where would we find them in sentences? We would find them to function as adjectives, all right? Yeah? And we would find them, following either has or have or had. Has or have, the tense would be present perfect. And like after, had, they would be past perfect, all right? They would be part of a past perfect tense, all right? In a sentence, I mean. So let's move on to the sentences and, make use of these words here, all right? So the law what? Driving over 40 kilometers an hour on side streets in the city. You can drive 60 or 75 on Main Street. So when we talk about the law forbids. Forbids, yani, says no way to do that, all right? You're not allowed to do that. To forbid is to not allow something to happen, all right? Like you mustn't, all right? It's like prohibits, all right? That's another meaning, all right? So forbids. And it's present simple because when we talk about laws or a law, a certain law, this is something that has not happened just today. This is like a common thing and a regular thing, all right? So it should be present simple because, present simple to talk about laws, rules, truths, that are, kind of regular. Let's move on to sentence 2. A small sailboat, but small one, right? Hit a rock. And within an hour, it had, look at had. It had what? Sunk. So we want to use verb 3 here, okay? And we're talking about a sailboat that hit a rock. So the proper word is to use this, but in which tense, in which form in verb 3? Why? Because we have had, okay? It had sunk, all right? So this is what happened to the sailboat. So like this happened before the hour ended itself, all right? So usually when we talk about past perfect, we either talk about two actions, one preceded the other, or an action and a time. All right. Here we have an action and a time. All right. This action took place or happened before this hour, this time, finished. All right. So this is just how it functions to show order in what happened first and what happened second. This happened first and this happened second. But what? Both of them are in the past. So when we talk about past perfect, so it means that this happened before another past thing, but the other past thing was like more recent to the present. All right. Yeah. Now we want to move on to sentence 3. And it seems that we're going to use past participle as an adjective here, as you can see. See, this is the beginning of a sentence. And usually when we begin a sentence, we begin it with a subject. So frozen food. This is not a verb here. It does not function as a verb here. All right. In terms of its form, it's past participle, true. But I mean here it functions as an adjective. Frozen food. This is my subject. An adjective and a noun. Is what? Quick and easy to cook. Yes. So for us women who want to cook, fast, and mainly on days when we have, a lot of work to do, what do? We resort to frozen food. Thank God for frozen food. All right. Yeah, that's what I do, honestly speaking. I wish that my kids and my husband loved more, frozen food more than they do. They prefer fresh, but fresh requires a lot of peeling and chopping, and it's time consuming. So I would switch between frozen and fresh sometimes. Yeah. Let's move on to 4. Bob went hunting. All right. And guys, went, and there's and. So about the verb, what about the verb in the tense of that verb? And shot a bear. So maybe he did that yesterday. He went hunting maybe yesterday, last week, a month ago. All right. So he went hunting, and what did he do? He shot a bear. Shoot is the present simple, but the past simple of it is what? Shot a bear. And no need for, any present perfect or past perfect here. Alrighty, let's move on to the next exercise. And this exercise, guys, it's probably not an exercise, but it is, just a clarification, guys. And I think I told you a bit about this before, a few minutes ago. And it's about adjectives, all right? Like, how do we find adjectives in sentences? Like, how do they look? Where is their position in a sentence, all right? An adjective, all right? So look, guys, adjectives describe what? Nouns, okay. When you say she is beautiful, I'm describing the girl, right? She, this girl, all right? They are usually before the nouns. So we find adjectives before nouns in this way. Look at the first sentence. These are difficult questions. Suppose I gave you some questions to answer, and then you describe them to your friend, and you say, what? These are difficult questions. So we might find an adjective in this way, guys, before a noun. Difficult here is an adjective, all right? And questions is a noun in the plural, as you can see. And sometimes, guys, they are sometimes after the verb to be. So you can also see, guys, in the second sentence over here, the word questions, which is the noun, preceded, let me say, the adjective, and it is part of the subject, as you can see. So instead of saying these, I said these questions. And then are, the verb to be, what about them? Are difficult. No need for a noun here because I mentioned it at the beginning of, the sentence as part of the subject, right? So this is also another way that we can use adjectives, all right? After the verb to be, like this, without a noun following it, because the noun would like precede it or something of that kind and be part of the subject. All right. Another also let me say, form that could function as an adjective, and I just mentioned this a while ago, is what? The participles could function as adjectives. Look, participles are often used as adjectives. All right. Remember when we talked about these participles here? Let me show you. These, we said we could use them as adjectives. So you can say, I love frozen veggies. Okay. The forbidden law was not followed. Okay. Or was followed. No, there was a law that was forbidden, and people, acted upon it or something like that. I might say the sunk, something that is sunk, the sunk boat. All right. Yeah. All right. And you could use shot as also a participle. The animal that was shot, or the shot animal, probably, right, was changed into fur or something like that. All right. Let's take a look at this. Let me just, raise the picture here and take a look at this. So what does it say here? Look, the third form of the verb is the past participle. For example, talked and frozen. So we know this now, okay? These are, the verb 3, or we call them past participle. We call these past participles, let me say, and they could function and be used as adjectives. In addition to that, now this is new, guys, all right? That sometimes the ing form itself, guys, of a verb is called a participle. But what kind of a participle? Not a past participle, a present participle. Like, so writing, reading, eating, growing, fighting, okay? It has different names. Sometimes we refer to it as a gerund, all right? Yeah. But here we care to say something about it, that it's a present participle, and it could be used also as an adjective. Look at this example. The growing population, look, population is a noun. So the growing population is causing what? Environmental problems. So this is the subject, and the subject is made of an article, an adjective, or a present participle that functions as an adjective, as I say here in my notes, and then we have the noun, okay? So I could say, the talking bear. The talking bear made us laugh, all right? Or attracted us. Got it? So the bear talks. That's what it means. I described it as a talking bear. So here, when I say the talking bear, talking functions also as an adjective. All right? Yeah. So I would say that, we finished this page now, and we want to move on to page 66. All right. Okay, I think this is the page that I want to share with you. Let me just stop sharing and share again, just to make sure that you can see this. Okay, so I'm sharing page 66 now with you, and I'd like to enlarge it. Okay, let's just make it big enough so that you can see, because sometimes when we enlarge these pages, what happens is that we don't see, right? Let me enlarge some more. All right, so we have this table. We have the following verbs. We have, look, verbs. Predict, shorten. To predict means what, guys? I'm not going to give you the meanings of all these words. You should understand what they mean. I mean, but I will, in terms of, I will give them to you in terms of their verb forms. And you understand them as nouns and adjectives and adverbs, all right? So if they do have those forms, predict, I think we mentioned this before. It is like to, to think about something, to think that something will happen, probably, to predict, right? To shorten, to make shorter, like, this is long, to make shorter is like this, to shorten your shirt, to shorten your pants, because they're too long. Depend means like to rely on, to depend. I depend on my mom and dad, for support, for, in different ways. Let me say, limit. What does that mean? To limit something, to not allow it to exceed something, right? Not to allow it to grow, thrive, do much, probably, To populate is to have, maybe people living in a certain place, more people, let me say, living in a certain place, probably. I'm referring to people. It could be anything else. It could be something else, not necessarily people. To care means to look after. To use, let me say, to, let me say, what do I want to say about use? To use, like, to make use of something, to benefit from something, all right? Like, I'm using the pen, I'm writing, with it. That's using, all right? To combine, that means to put together, right? Sometimes if you combine water and salt, what did we say last time? You will have what? A new mix, which is, or a mixture, which is what? Salty water, or salt water, we can say too. Okay, let's complete these sentences with words from the list. I'm sorry, guys. I have the meanings in Arabic on the left, you know, proper meanings as well. But anyway, let's take a look. So as a noun, prediction. As an adjective, it is predictable. All right, like you know where adjectives go now. And an adverb, you know, usually a description for a verb, predictably. So we have shorten as a verb, as a noun, shortage, as an adjective, short, as an adverb, it's shortly. Then we have depend as a verb, dependence as a noun, dependent as an adjective, and dependently as an adverb. Then we have limit as a verb, we have limit as a noun, the same. How do we distinguish between them? Like I said, guys, before, you know, it has to do with, you know, where it is in a sentence. So when I say the limit, okay, that's of course, a noun, it's a subject, and it's not a verb. When I say, my mother limited the amount, of course, look at, I even added ed to it. It's not just a verb, but it's a past simple verb, okay? They limited the amount of hours or time that I would be watching on TV, you know? So here it's a verb, you know? So here, now we have limited, and there's an ed, you know? I have limited amount of money. You see, it's an adjective here, and there is no adverb for it. Then we have populate as a verb, population as a noun, the population, right? Populous, a populous place, right? That has lots of people in it, all right? So this is an adjective. We have care. Again, same thing with care, guys. When it's a verb, we're going to find it, you know, like in a certain place for verbs, like not the first thing in a sentence, you know, unless, you know, it's an imperative verb. Care for your mom, all right? Like look after your mom, okay? Or you guys should care for your children, or care for your children without even you should, you know? Yeah. But there will be an exclamation mark at the end. And so we know that it's not the noun care, all right? So care here is a verb. It could be a noun based on, like I said, guys, it has to do with the position, and it has to do with, you know, sometimes it's, you know, let me say punctuation helps too, all right? I care for my children. I care for my loved ones, you know? Yeah. Careful and careless, they're opposites, guys, and they are both adjectives. This one's positive. Careful person, a careless, you know, a destructive person probably, right? And then we have carefully, the way you do something. So it's an adverb here, carelessly. Let's hope we are not people who do things in this manner, let me say. All right. So again, use and use. Look at the difference in pronunciation. Use as a verb and use as a noun, all right? But sometimes, you know, when you see them as, a student who is not majoring in English, you might not know the difference in terms of pronunciation, but that could help. What could help you guys? Like I said, the position of the verb itself in a sentence. So I use my pen every day. That is, I write using that pen, you know. And the use of something, you know, should be, the use of water should be responsible, probably, you know, our use of water should be responsible, something like that. So in this way, I use it as a, you know, part of the subject, right? Like, all right. So useful, useless, again, negative, positive, negative, adjectives, adverbs, usefully, uselessly, all right? Depends on what I'm saying, right? I will choose one of these in order to say something positive or negative, you know, in terms of the way I do something, right? Combine, it's a verb here, and combination is a noun. And combined, you know, remember, guys, we talked about past participles that function as adjectives, combined, all right? Combined could be here, it could function, I'm sorry, as an adjective. Take a look at the sentences. Now we have sentence 1, and likes to read books with a ending is the noun. So what do we want here? What kind of ending? An adjective here, a predictable ending. She doesn't like surprises. Okay, some people are like that. They like, you know, reading books with predictable endings, you know, ones that you can predict because they don't like surprises or shocks, let's say. All right. Sentence 2. The secretary was short. That is, she did not have enough, guys. All right. That's just a way of saying that she did not have enough paper. So the secretary was short of paper, okay? So we have an adjective after the verb to be, as you can see, and had to order some. Okay. So like if I was short, on something or of something, I would like buy it the next day or later on. Many countries are dependent on oil for fuel, right? The Gulf countries, the America, Canada, yeah, they depend on oil for fuel, right? Yeah, because you cannot power your car, you cannot make your car work without, oil for fuel, right? Yeah. So this is an adjective here, and it is followed. This adjective, I'm sorry, follows this verb to be are. Countries, plural, right? Are. The speed here is the subject. The speed, is it the speed limit, right? This is all part of the subject. In my area, so all of this is the subject, guys. The speed limit, right? In my area, now this is the verb, is 30 miles per hour, okay? What is the what? After that, we need a noun, right? Or an adjective and a noun. Here we have only a noun. The population of your country. What is the population of your country? I don't know. Okay, you can check Google. All right. Every day it changes. That's why. If you are what after are, careful. Here we have an adjective. When you write your composition is like your essay. All right. You will probably get a good grade. Okay, yes. If you write, however, see guys, if you write carelessly, in a careless manner, what will happen? You will fail. Oh my gosh. I hope that does not happen. All right. The next question, 7, is 7. For the next sentence, a sled is what? We want to describe the sled as what? Useless. You know why? If you live in Kuwait. Kuwait, in Kuwait, there is no snow, all right? People say that it's burning hot now. It's like, hell on earth right now during the summer. All right, 8, they use a what? A combination noun. Combination of what? Of resources for energy. Why do we say combination? Because look in their house, they use what? Sun, energy, oil, and wind power. So all these different kinds of, energy resources. Some, as we can see, are, renewable. Others are renewable, right? Yeah. So this is it about this section. All right. Now we want to move on to the last question. We have one more question. Let me stop sharing this, guys, just for a minute. And let me share, I think the last, let me say page, it should be here. All righty. Yes, amazing. So this is the last page and we need to work on it. It has to do with articles. And basically the article that we have been focusing on is the article, like when to use it, when not to use it. And we will do some explanation on why we want to use it every time we use it and why we don't want to use it in the following sentences. All right. Yeah. So let's take a look. So we said, guys, that the is an article before. We said that. It's not like we didn't say this before. It is an article that sometimes is used, as, as part, or let me say in collaboration with certain nouns, right? So it's like always there with it. And sometimes, we don't have it just because it's not part of the title or the name, And at times, guys, we know that we use the sometimes. We want to talk about something specific. When we want to talk about something that everybody, let me say, regards as known, all right? Or when we use something like for the second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, something like that kind. Now, we don't use it, guys, with certain names, and I think we memorize the cases when we don't use that with certain nouns or names, let me say, and we don't use it when we talk about things in general. So you have to keep these ideas in your head whenever you read sentences and think about, that, all right? So let's take a look at the first sentence. We have, for thousands of years, sentence number 1, the population of the earth or of the world, I'm sorry, increased gradually. So we're going to use the population because I'm talking about a specific population. And I'm talking about, the world that we are part of and that everybody knows. We're not talking about, something not specified. Okay, we're specifying here. All right. And if you go back to the text, we have the with population before the world. All right. Let's move on to sentence 2. By the year. So we always say by the year. In this phrase, guys, you got to memorize this phrase. By the year 2050, by the year 2030, by the year, probably next year, which is 2021. Okay? So use this phrase, guys. In Arabic, we say بحلول هذا العام. All right? So that is like part of such a phrase. Just memorize it. All right? Researchers predict that the population of the world. So this is like a repetition of this sentence again. All right? So we're talking about something specific here and something repeated, and we mean something here, guys, let me say, that is known to us all. So that's why we use the. We don't know how people, why do I say people here and with no the? Because in general, guys, we're talking about people in general, will choose to live in the future. All right? Let's move on to sentence 4. More than 97% of the water on earth. So we're talking about what, guys? Which water? The water on earth. All right? This is why. A specific kind of water. What about it? Is, in general, salt water. This water itself that I've been talking about in general is salt water. So today does not mean today, guys. It means nowadays. During this, time period, let me say. The demand. All right? I'm talking about something specific here. For fresh water in general is greater than the supply. So the demand and the supply, guys, are both specific, okay? They're different. The demand is like what we need. The supply is what is available, okay? And we're talking about what? Fresh water in general, okay? So the demand of fresh water and the supply of fresh water. That's the idea. It is possible to increase what? Again, the amount of farmland. We're talking about specific, farmland, not in general, the amount of farmland, not specific, not general land, but something specific, which is an amount of even farmland, not just an amount of farmland, the one that we want to increase also. So it's something specific here, but only a little. Okay, so we're positive, so that's why I said a little. If you want to be negative, you use little, guys. It seems that this is a positive sentence. Why? Because when we want to increase farmland or think about increasing it, we have to be positive. All right. Now let's move on to sentence 7. Over cultivation, overdoing it when it comes to land. I spoke about what the meaning of over cultivation on and on. That is not working on the land in a proper way. All right. Has already damaged an amount of farmland equal to the size of that. What did we say about United States? It always receives the before it. Okay, before 2 words, not America. It's the United States, the USA, the, right? United States of America, also the we have before it. And Canada, a 1 word, country. 1 word countries do not get the before them combined. All right. We have many different sources of what? Commercial energy. Why commercial energy does not get, the before it? Because we're talking about commercial energy in general. Alrighty. And guys, we're done for today. I hope you enjoyed this, this session, and I hope you've learned, a lot from it. Please, guys, make sure that you watch it, you cover the questions, you make sure you understand them, and make sure that, that you prepare next time's lesson, which is going to be the garbage project, guys. All right. The garbage project is the next lesson that I will be discussing and taping for you. So inshallah tomorrow, that's what I will be taping for you. And it's on page 98. Please, guys, read it so it could be easier, and you could, relate to what I'm saying, next time. I wish you guys all the best, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.